Ladies and gentlemen, Chris Waters here, and thank you so much for sticking with us during our epic Day 2 live stage show here on Stage 1, GameSpot's booth at E3 2013. This is our penultimate demo of the day, and it's for a little game called CounterSpy. Here from Dynamite are John and David to talk about the game and give us a little bit of a spiel about what it is, because I had to look it up myself, and what I saw I really, really liked. First off, welcome to the stage.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Oh, too loud.
There you go. You get a little calibration, you'll figure it out. CounterSpy, we're going to show some gameplay off in just a second, but set the stage for folks. It's the Cold War, the height of the espionage realm.
So, I mean, CounterSpy, yeah, it's an action espionage game set during the Cold War, and it's kind of really born out of our collective love at Dynamite of kind of all things 50s, 60s era, early Bond, Man from U.N.C.L.E., Mission Impossible, like all that kind of awesome entertainment that we kind of grew up on watching as kids.
High stakes, and also a certain amount of style, right? Those guys you mentioned, they're all the protagonists of those things, very slick.
Definitely going for style, you know, and visual style as well. If you look at the visual design that was coming out of that era as well, like super awesome graphic stuff, like Saul Bass, things like that. Those are the sort of stuff that we get really excited about.
So, set in this world, what kind of experience did you guys want to create with CounterSpy? What's the player experience going to be?
So it's definitely more of an action game. We have little bits of kind of gentle stealth as well, but it's very much an action game where you're sneaking into bases, sabotaging items in the base, all with the goal of taking out a big missile that's about to launch under time pressure while you're sneaking in there.
There's a lot of big missiles about to launch around that time, aren't there?
Big missiles.
All right, well, let's give folks a look at the game in action, because I think that, you know, seeing this game in action tells you so much about it and about what, you know, what kind of experience you guys are trying to create. So set the stage beyond, you know, this is a base where a big missile is going to launch. Who's this guy?
So your character, you play an agent for Counter. Counter is sort of a non-government agency. If you think of kind of the mythology of a lot of those classic movies and TV shows, you'll often have, like, in the Bond movies, you've got Spectre, and they're the bad guys, right?
Yep.
In our game, we've kind of flipped that, where Counter feel like they're the good guys and the superpowers are the bad guys, because these are the guys that are like, hey, let's build bigger and bigger missiles and escalate this whole thing, and like none of that seems very good to us.
Maybe we should not do that. We
right,
should
exactly.
Stop people from doing that crazy
missiles
thing.
Bad.
Yes.
So in the game, your goal is to go infiltrate, raid military installations, missile sites. You'll have a countdown that's counting down to launch, and you have to get to the missile before that launch time, sabotage the missile. That's kind of the core objective that you have.
All right. And you're going to have to fight your way through, clearly, some guards.
Yes.
Just to clarify, John's having a little trouble with the controller on stage. We've actually got it linked through this crazy connection back to the room, so there may be a little bit of a hiccup in terms of control. But yes, the peril of live demoing. So
what could go wrong?
I'm not sure if that is anything we can do about that. 7 controller sync issues, but while we sort of try to fix that, tell me if this art style is inspired by that. Yeah, let's switch back to the stage here. This art style is inspired by the art from that era, by that sort of slick, like not quite austere, but very stylized, that look.
Yeah, and it's really, so we're a pretty small studio. A lot of the people there worked at companies like LucasArts and Pixar. So our art director was 16 years at Pixar. So there's definitely...
Not what you would call a small studio.
Well, no, but once upon a time they were small. They had big dreams.
Very true.
But that's actually, you can kind of see the influence, obviously, like, again, great movies like The Incredibles, which, like, who doesn't like that movie?
People with no souls and black hearts.
And yeah, and like having a strong visual style is something that we really want to do with all our games, you know, and this is something that we kind of we've definitely put a lot of kind of love into the game to really kind of give it that distinctive look. Also, in terms of sort of the overall tone of the game, like we're not making a piece of history. We're making kind of an irreverent game. We've got our own mythology.
Yep.
So we wanted to really sort of push the style to accentuate that. Okay, so the gameplay is working again, as you can see.
Oh, yeah.
One of the things that we think is interesting with this is you can see here is, although it's a side-scrolling game, we have these moments where when the agent goes into cover, we can kind of pop the camera around, give you a bit more of a 3D look, and that really, for us, it sort of opens up the space. It allows us to kind of use the environment in interesting ways, whilst sort of maintaining the kind of like the accessible gameplay that you get from, you know, a side scroller where you're not like, okay, I'm moving my character and I'm moving the camera at the
And
same
having
time.
to shoot and stuff like that. Yeah, but it does sort of imbue it with a little bit of that kind of dynamic camera appeal that not only just showcases the cool art style, but also, yeah, livens up the game experience.
Yes.
All right,
Couldn't
so
put it better myself.
so you've got an elevator key. You're going in this elevator here, and that makes me wonder about sort of your path of progression throughout these levels. Is it a pretty linear experience in terms of the challenges you guys set and the way you script the environments, or does the player have a bit of a freedom of choice?
So, the levels themselves are fairly small. They're designed, you can play through them in about 5 kind of minutes or so. They're designed somewhat in a linear way. Your goal is pretty one-directional. It's like get to the launch site.
Yeah.
But along the way, you'll get
You're not
little.
there to see sights. You're there to you're there to sabotage.
Do your job, agent. But along the way, you'll have little kind of areas where, like, for example, this room where John kind of went off track, explored a little bit, and found another room where he was sabotaging some computers. And that's actually one of the ways you can kind of aid your progression in the game is the more mayhem you cause in terms of blowing things up and just blowing up computers, things like that, you'll actually delay the countdown, buy yourself some more time.
Oh, okay, yeah.
In addition to which, there's this sort of outer loop aspect of the game where you're collecting blueprints, top secret plans, things like that. The more blueprints you collect, your complete sets, that's how you kind of unlock the cool secret agent experimental weapons.
Ooh, experimental weapons. I like it.
Yes, that's a little tease.
A little tease, so no examples of experimental weapons to share.
That's why it's a tease,
now?
yes.
That's why it's a tease. I want to talk about this timer because it's clearly ever present and a big part of the mission. Do you cut it close? Are you usually escaping with less than a minute time?
So you're looking at a very E3 friendly amount of time here. We've been demoing this game all day, and when we're demoing and talking, we didn't want to be like, oh, I'm having a conversation. Oh no, I ran out of time. But yes, the goal is to kind of really exert that pressure, and it ratchets up over time. So consecutive levels, you'll be like, really, if you want to get there in time, you're going to have to kind of go off the beaten track and cause more mayhem. Try and delay that launch.
You will need to delay the launch.
Increasingly, as you get further into the game, yes.
You guys, now this also thrives on mobile. We're playing on a PS3 right now.
Yes.
But actually, Werner is setting up to do a camera shot of the tablet. I think maybe we could bring that back into the booth where he's playing. Or we could bring John back here. But we'll wait till this mission is finished. We'll take a look at the mobile in just a moment.
Yeah, and I could talk a little bit about the mobile while John makes his way back here. That's helpful.
Well, it seems like John still has his work cut out for him here as the clock ticks down.
He has to stay on target.
Now, I've seen at a few points here the choice, maybe not choice, but the challenge to maintain stealth. That can be, this guy could have just gotten blasted in the head, but he came up and did a little stealth kill. Will stealth help aid you in your progression, or is it just as quick as going loud and taking dudes out?
We're pretty light on stealth in this game. I feel like if you're going to do a stealth game, just kind of embrace it and go all in. Like a game like Mark of the Ninja, which I love. and is awesome. It's such
yeah.
a great, pure stealth game.
Uh-huh.
So with this game, we're really focusing on it being a core action shooter, making the cover gameplay fun. So the stealth in the game is just more of the little nuggets, like, you sneaked up behind a guy, you kind of took him out without anyone seeing. If you're trying to goose your high score, things like that will make a difference. You'll get extra points, things like that.
Oh, okay, well, let's talk points for a second here, because, you got the timer in there, you've got ways to goose your high score. Where's the competitive element there in terms of like leaderboard chasing or meeting a certain goal?
So it's designed to be a single-player game, but we will have kind of leaderboards. You'll be able to kind of match your progress against your friends, and we've got some interesting ideas that again is sort of a tease. But of how we can kind of represent that visually.
Oh, okay.
If you think of games like Jetpack Joyride, Temple Run, you're probably not a million miles away from the type of thing we would do. But I love games where you have the high score, but it's really kind of brought into the game experience itself and sort of really affects that experience in some way.
Gives you something to care about, or affects your motivation throughout the play, not just, I've reached the end.
Exactly.
What's my score? Let me see
Yes.
the tally. Level win, John.
Level win.
Nice work.
Imagine a great video of a rocket taking off and blowing up.
John's painting a picture of a reward video of the rocket taking off and blowing up in flight and being your reward for crisis averted. Now, John, you're going to jump into show us a little bit of the tablet. We've got Werner standing by to show the camera. If you want to speak, Dave, you're going to have to just point that mic right in front of his face.
Yeah. So basically, we spent a lot of time thinking about how we were going to convert CounterSpy onto the mobile devices.
Yep.
One of the things we really worried about was not wanting to use virtual sticks on the touch device. We feel like that just kind of reminds you that you don't have a controller, and it doesn't really give a great experience. So we wanted to make sure we had something that was more gesture-based. And so the control scheme we're using here on the tablet is basically the whole screen is a button. You swipe to walk, swipe again to run, swipe in the other direction to change direction, and then just tap to stop. And then to pull out your weapon, you just press and hold, and then you can move up and down to aim, and then just press with the second finger to fire.
Okay.
So now,
and that's the free aiming mode, which is distinct from the taking cover situation.
Exactly. But the same basic set of controls works just the same when you're in cover. So you double tap to interact with something, and then once, I'll get to cover in a second, once you're in cover, you again press and hold, and that lets you do the aim.
Uh-huh.
Now, this both works really nicely with one hand, so I can press and hold here, put up to aim, and then shoot with the other finger. But then also
right.
you can imagine on a phone, you press and hold with one thumb, and then you use the second thumb to actually do the aim with. So it works well on both the sort of more compact devices as well as like the big tablet.
All right, very cool. Again, folks, we are checking out CounterSpy with David and John from Dynamite. If you've got any questions, get into the GameSpot comments, the Twitch chat, or hashtag GameSpotE3 on Twitter. But you guys have given us a pretty good look at the game so far. I got to say, it occurred to me while just watching that along with this sort of Bond aesthetic, with this sort of, different secret non-governmental agencies, you have the idea of the villain, that iconic evil person, that mastermind that you sort of go up against. Is CounterSpy going to have any colorful characters that you run across? Because it seems like maybe that might be up your alley.
Well, certainly with the first game, kind of the emphasis is on your agent, your main character as an agent for Counter, the organization. Going back to what I was saying earlier about that kind of, we're sort of flipping that Bond mythology. So you're a member of Counter.
You are the villain.
Maybe you think you're the good guys, and you are doing this thing that you feel good.
The best villains always think they're the good guys.
Right. So there is the kind of like the mysterious, who is that person that's behind the Counter agency? And certainly that's something that we would kind of like to uncover over time.
All right, John, David, thank you so much for coming on here, showing off CounterSpy. This is going to be on the PlayStation 3, as well as... Get it up there.
Vita, iOS, and Android.
Excellent. And when?
Later this year.
Later this year. All right, guys, thank you so much for coming on stage. pleasure to see you and check out CounterSpy. Folks, we are just on the cusp of our final demo of the day. One more tape segment to toss you to, and we'll be back here shortly to wrap it all up.